This program is brought to you by the Media Liberty Alliance Foundation in cooperation with OBBM Network TV, bringing citizen-led, creative local media to the forefront of local communities to foster a greater understanding of constitutional liberty and appreciation of what makes us truly free, starting with you and me.
The Zach Rateliff Show is brought to you by Mortgage Financial in Texarkana, Exceed Health Clinic on Mull Drive in Texarkana, Elmwood Custom Goods, and Church on the Rock, Texarkana. That's churchontherock.org.
God's idea of wealth redistribution is different from socialism's idea of universal basic income, in which everyone's paid whether they work or not. Jesus talked about two servants who worked and were rewarded with more, while what the lazy person had was taken from him and given to the hard worker. The biblical path to prosperity involves work and ingenuity, not handouts. I'm Pastor John Miller. Visit me at churchontherock.org.
Hello and welcome to the Zach Rateliff Show. I'm Zach. I'm here with Pam Little from the Texas State Board of Education.
That's what it is.
Hello, Pam. How are you?
I'm good, Zach. How are you?
It's good. We hadn't talked in a couple of years, but we did a couple of interviews during that time. So it's good to actually see you, though. I think we met one other time, but I can't remember when that was. But anyway, good to see you.
Well, thanks for having me on. I've always appreciated this corner of East Texas being in my district. It's nice to have such a red county in my district.
that definitely helps. And you've always come off as a voice of conservatism, and that's the way I understand it to be. I guess let's start with, what is the Texas State Board of Education? So we're, just so you know, we're show's growing every day. We get there will be a lot of people from outside of Texas that listen to us. We get tens of thousands of downloads a day. We'll wind up 100,000 people will wind up hearing from you. So, kind of, what is the State Board of Education? Why is it important in Texas?
Well, the State Board of Education is a 15-member body, and we are elected by the people. And with Texas having a 30 million population, each one of us represents 2 million people.
Golly. So the state of Arkansas.
Yeah. And it varies geographically. I mean, those that are in the big metropolitan areas, they have a small geography. You look at the District 15, which is out in West Texas, and I think he's got about 3/5 of the geography of Texas. So the geography varies because it's based on population. And right now we are 10 members are Republican and 5 are Democrat. Our chair is Aaron Kinsey out of Midland, and I have been honored to be elected the vice chair 3 times in a row unanimously by my colleagues.
That's awesome.
And I serve as the vice chair, and Mr. Will Hickman out of Houston serves as our secretary.
Okay. Well, why is the State Board of Education important? What do you 15 people do that set the direction for 30 million?
The most important thing that we do, I mean, there's several, but in my mind, there's 2 big ones. We write the TEKS. And when I say write, I don't mean that we sit there and write them. But
so this is the TEKS that we say.
The Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, and we refer to it as the TEKS. In reality, what these are curriculum standards.
Okay.
And we oversee approval of those. And I'm sure many of your listeners have heard recently that we are working on the social studies TEKS. And you can imagine what we've been encountering with that.
Well, I don't know enough to know what I don't know. So I'm just going to ask some basic questions and let you fill us in. The way I understand it is, with there being so many students in Texas, and with whatever you guys decide is the curriculum, a lot of times between Texas and California and New York is the way the textbooks go. So whatever you decide, that you're not only while you're held accountable by Texas voters and in your case, District 12 voters, you're impacting far more than just the students of Texas, correct?
Yes, in a way we do, because our standards, then the publishers will take and write the books for those standards. And I'll get into a little bit more of that as I talk about some of the stuff. But we have 5.5 million students in the state of Texas. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of differences. I mean, you've got urban differences, you've got rural differences, you've got geography. Not only do you have socioeconomic and different ethnicities, there's just a wide variety of different students in the state. And my goal is that these TEKs will set a baseline because we have so many different students around the state. And because by law, every school district has to teach these TEKs.
Okay, so no matter what, they're at least teaching this.
Yes, exactly.
So, which is where the social studies talk that we're into, it really matters right now.
It matters a great deal. It really does. And let me just go ahead and jump into the social studies. This time, well, when we first started looking at revamping the social studies TEKs, there were a couple of reasons that we needed to kind of do a bigger update than we would normally do for other TEKs. And the reason being is we discovered that our K through 3 grades just didn't have much content in them. And we also felt like that one of the things, and this might get a little technical, within these TEKs, we had strands. And unfortunately, the strands were too much of a breakout. As an example, you had a strand on history about the Civil War, but you didn't see Frederick Douglass in there. He was over in the citizenship strand.
Oh, right. So it didn't all connect.
So that was another goal, is let's get it more chronological, so to speak, so that when you're talking about the Civil War, you also talk about Frederick Douglass at the same time, because that's where he fits in history.
Probably the Civil War amendments.
Right, exactly. I mean, but that's just an example of one of the reasons that we felt like we needed to do that. So we had a lot of discussion, a lot of people testifying, and we came up with a curriculum. It was called the 351. It's not a curriculum, excuse me, it's a framework. And what that meant, is that K through 2 will be thematic. And I'm really thrilled with all of the topics that are in there. It's like rule of law, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Constitution, all of those things are in there now, whereas they weren't before. So
which is wild that it wasn't in there.
It absolutely is. So we're going to start our K through 2 kiddos at an early age, learning more about their country than they ever have before.
Okay.
And then
that doesn't seem bad.
No. I do think maybe, and we're going to have to look at this. They have put so much in there. We may have to move some of it into other grades, just simply because it's too much content.
Yeah, that's right.
And I don't know, or our kindergartner's going to understand the term rule of law.
Yeah, no.
So the public may hear some adjustments like that, but basically it's still very pro-Texas, very pro-American.
And just to familiarize them with where we started, right?
Right,
okay.
Absolutely, yeah. Then 3 through 7 is what they're calling a chronological approach.
Okay.
And what that means is that grades 3 starts from the beginning of time through the year 500.
Okay.
And the thing that concerns me about this, and I'll be upfront, I didn't support this framework. I had one that I preferred, but I got outvoted 8-7, which happens. I'm only one vote. But the thing that concerns me is it says, okay, the 3rd grade is going to be from the beginning of time to the year 500, but yet they're saying that 25% of that needs to be Texas history, and 25% of it needs to be American history.
Well, there was no America.
And there was no Texas.
Yeah, that's right.
So that concerned me greatly. And so what they have come up with as a way to get the Texas in there is they have a TEK that says that the pyramids influenced the Washington Monument and the San Jacinto Monument.
Well, I mean, you can't say that they didn't, but that's a good That's a good stretch.
It's a good stretch, and it's also not in the same timeline. And
No.
and our third graders are not going to really know
How
about the
confusing is that?
I know, and that's why I didn't like it. And the other reason that I didn't like it, and let me go to the fourth grade next. The fourth grade is from the year 500 up to 1500.
Okay.
Well, we still have no America and we still have no Texas. Yet I think it's like 40% is supposed to be American history. And yeah, I understand the chronological part of it, and I don't disagree with that.
Here's my question, and you're probably about to answer this, so just tell me to be quiet.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
From 0 to 500, I'm a Christian. But there's only one book that claims to be historical about 0 to 500. Seems like you would probably get some pushback on. There's only one book that claims to know.
Right.
Everything else would be theory.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and even up to 1500, especially with some timelines going into the hundreds of thousands or millions of years, it's hard to make all that. Now, look, I'm glad to hear that that's the way it is, because that is how I believe. However, it seems like there could be some pushback, which I'm sure you've heard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But the thing that bothers me, Zach, about this, and then you go on to fifth grade, and in fourth grade, we haven't even gotten to the explorers yet, because, Columbus came in 1492, but
Yeah.
we're cutting this off at 1500. And then at fifth grade, we're going to go from 1500 to 1800. And now,
Now we're losing a lot in there.
right, yeah. And so right now, our fourth graders have a full course on Texas history. Our fifth graders have a full course on American history.
Right.
My concern, and I voiced this numerous times, my concern is without teaching Texas history in that block so that they learn that there were 6 flags over Texas within 1 year,
Right.
and they learn about American history all at one time. How are they going to develop an identity as a Texan, an identity as an American?
Yeah.
And that's what really bothers me about this.
Let me tell you, my daughter just finished 4th grade this year.
Mhm.
And so her school over here at Red Lake ISD, they had 4th grade had a Texas history play.
Sure they did.
And they did, there were songs and skits, and she was a member of the old 300,
Mhm.
and we heard those songs for a long time around the house getting sang. And then one of my friend's dads died, but he had an old revolver that, was from the 1800s. Well, it was because his family is one of the original old 300 families. And so I was able to, because I was helping them, I was able to take a picture of that, show it to her, relate it to her Texas history. She knows the swath of Texas history pretty well. So we know the Alamo, we know Davy Crockett, we know San Jacinto, we know, which all seem to be important to me.
It's very important to me. I'm a 5th generation Texan, so
Right.
Texas history is near and dear to my heart, as is U.S. history.
Right.
And I just feel like that for our younger kids, this is going to dilute it to the point that they're not going to be able to identify as a Texan
Yeah.
or an American. And that's my concern.
Although I'm thinking back, I graduated high school in 2004. But the first time I really remember drilling down on Texas history was 7th grade.
Right. And now that's not going to be at the 7th grade anymore.
Really?
No, at 7th grade, it's going to be, I think, the year 1900 through 2000.
So we're just overlooking.
Well, what it is we're just taking chunks of time and we're teaching the student what happened in world history, Texas history, and U.S. history during that chunk of time.
The Alamo seems to be important.
It's very important, but it's going to be what they're going to see is they're going to see a lot of the Texas history broken up so that it's not all in 1 year. It's spread over 3 or 4. Actually, it's spread over. Well, if you can figure out some history to get about Texas before the year 500, it's spread between grades 3 through 7. Now, one of the good things for the Texas history folks is the 8th grade is what they're calling a capstone of Texas history, which supposedly will come back. We have a little question about if the drafts really achieve this. We'll come back and cover everything that's happened in history through the eyes of Texas history.
So wrapping it all together.
Right. Now, as we have looked at these TEKs, in fact, I just got off the phone with the chair, we have a concern that wasn't what was really accomplished in these TEKs.
Right.
So, and we have a meeting starting next Monday. So for the next few days, I'm going to be deep in social studies TEKs.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just let you continue on.
Okay.
You have a plan. I'm just going to ask the questions as we go, so as I don't derail us too much.
And one thing I want the folks to know is there was a lot of misinformation spread about these TEKs. I mean, I was getting all kinds of emails about the fact that they were pro-Muslim, pro-care, all of this kind of stuff. I can assure the public that they were not. Now, we did have some people come and testify that wanted somebody named Akbar at the Alamo, but I can assure you that's not going to happen.
I've never seen proof that that was the case for sure.
Yeah, no. But the public just needs to be assured that, we are a conservative board and there won't be any of the things that have been concerning people. And it is a concern.
Well, especially when she gets to the DFWs and
right.
That I understand that concern as it's a growing issue inside
Right.
of Texas.
And I did have emails from 2 former FBI agents warning me about putting pro-Muslim doctrine and Sharia law in the standards, which was never going to happen to begin with. But
Well,
so I know it's a concern and understand that.
when my daughter was at a different school year for 3rd grade, she came home and asked me why one of her substitutes got to wear a veil over her face and all the things, and wasn't really a conversation I was ready to have with a 3rd grader. But then we had to go in. I was happy to do it in a way that she could understand.
Right.
But yeah, so that threat's out there in our world now for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean it definitely is, and but it's not going to happen.
Okay. Hey, that's what I like to hear.
I think a lot of the Democrats don't even want that because of the way women are treated under the Muslim law.
You would think so. Yeah, I mean. Well, I could derail the next hour on this. I'm gonna try not to. I'll let it go on.
Okay. And then the other things that I wanted to talk about, you may have heard about the literary list that has been proposed. And what I'd like to do is to give a little background on that.
Okay.
It was proposed 2 sessions ago, I believe.
So why was this an issue? Maybe you could go into that. Why is there a literary list proposed?
Well, let me follow through with this, okay? Right. It came out in House Bill 1605 that the State Board of Education was to create a mandated reading list. And a lot of it stemmed possibly from some of the problems that we were seeing with inappropriate things, the sexualization, just, maybe just to ensure that wasn't going to happen. So, and the language in the bill was at least 1 per grade level. Okay. Well, as the State Board of Education, we do not have any staff, so we depend on the Commissioner of Education and the Texas Education Agency as our staff. So
which that's the TEA.
That's the TEA. And so the commissioner drafted this list. And when we saw it, a lot of the board members saw it, we were sort of stunned because instead of at least 1 per grade level, it had as many as 23 selections per grade level.
Okay.
And so we started thinking, well, what's going on here? And this is a problem that I see us having in education in this state. The commissioner then took his list to the legislature, to the House Pub Ed Chair, who's Dr. Brad Buckley, and he said, this is what I think your legislative intent was. This is my interpretation of this legislation.
Okay.
Even though it said just at least 1.
Right.
And so then the state board gets a letter from Dr. Buckley saying that he feels like that this was the legislative intent and would we please pass this? So I feel like that in a way the state board has lost their ability to function
because you've been gone around now
Yes.
by the TEA,
Absolutely.
which I don't want to put words in your mouth, but from my perspective, as a non-educator and just as a regular person, I take some issue with some of the stuff the TEA does anyway.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But this is what happens, I mean, and then one of our members who's been there a long time, Mr. Maynard, he cautioned us. He said, well, if we don't vote the way the legislature wants us to, if we don't follow legislative intent, then next session, they're going to take maybe some power away from us. Or they may just come in and legislate that list and there's not anything we can do about it. So it's very frustrating to me that we're given things to do, but yet really we end up just being told what to do.
That's my worry. Let me soapbox for a second. That's my worry with education in our state and across our country in general, is we have so much red tape around it. We have so much bureaucracy around it. Why can't we get towards this community's school board feels that this would be best for their students, and then allow that school board to make the decisions outside of the core principles that you all lay down, and then if that's what they want to do, they don't have to kiss the ring.
I think that's exactly what we need to get back to.
Yeah.
Because that's the local people and they can be voted out. Another concern that I have, and I have the Commissioner of Education, and I have no fault with him personally. I mean, his heart is in the right place.
Right.
He wants our kids to do better. But number one, he's not an educator.
Right.
He's never been in a classroom. And secondly, I just feel like that he is just, trying to circumvent us, and he's not elected.
Which is a problem.
He is appointed by the governor. Now, if he were elected, that's a whole different thing.
Because then you get some accountability.
Right, we would have some accountability. But unless the governor gets mad at him over something, he's there as long as he wants to be.
Which goes back to my point about the bureaucracy.
Right.
Now this guy, an unelected bureaucrat, is about to do our end around of our state board of education, who are 15 people that are elected by parents, by citizens, to oversee this. And like I said, it's 2-1 Republican, because that's what we want.
Right, exactly. So and I think this happens a lot, but it was an easy example to see with this literary list, what happened. So, but anyway, to finish up on the literary list, we were able to work with the commissioner, and at 6 through 12, we cut it down to maybe 10 per grade level.
So are these required readings?
They are required readings. And because they will be a part of our TEKS, the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, that means they are open to be on the STAR test, or whatever the new test is going to be.
Just got my daughter's STAR test results back today, so.
I know. I know all that hit today, and I of course haven't had a time to really look at all of them.
I'm pleased.
Well, good. So that's kind of where we are with the literary list, and we are also working to maybe reduce the K through 5 list a little bit.
Okay.
And as I have looked closer at these, I have found a couple of them that I just don't think have the instructional quality that we need.
Well, that was my next question. Are we happy with the books on this list?
Well, I would really prefer for us to put a pause on this and let's look at these books closer.
How do we do that?
Well, we could do that by the chair saying, okay, we're going to postpone this second reading until the next meeting. But I don't see that happening.
Okay.
But like one of the ones that I found, it was a book about Noah's Ark, which you think, okay, that's a good book,
Right.
Good story for I think it was first grade. But in the book, first of all, there was only one page that had any words on it, and it was 28 pages long. It was basically just a picture book. So, and then the language that it did have in there, I'm going to paraphrase here.
Yeah.
It said that after the flood was over, the animals that came out felt guilty because all the other animals had been killed. And I don't really think that's what we need to be telling our first graders.
What a wild thing to. And this goes back to my worry about the year 0 through whatever history.
Yeah.
We're just winging it.
Yeah. So I would really like to have a little more time to look deeper at these. And when I pointed this out to the commissioner, because remember, he's the one that proposed all these.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, you're right. That has no instructional value in it." But my question is, how many more might there be like that?
Where'd you get this list, Mr.
Yeah.
Commissioner?
Right, yeah. So I would like to, but we are working and hopefully we'll get it pared down some to be more realistic. And of course, the other issue is requiring all of these readings or these selections. Somebody's going to have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be cheap.
If we
And
put in all these books in every school for each student to have to read, there's going to be
Absolutely.
multiple copies. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a financial
And-
undertaking.
and the commissioner has assured me that the legislature will come up with the money for that.
So it just taxes more on property.
Exactly.
I know where that
Yeah,
comes
yeah.
from.
So my point is that, while it may not be an unfunded mandate to school districts, it's going to be a taxpayer issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you just keep taking from the makers. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's frustrating for me because something with good intent is, hey, we want to know what's in them. We want to
Yeah.
require a book, or even if it's two, we want to require this reading because it's helpful in building skills.
Yes.
Now it's, oh, here are all these, and this is a Noah's Ark, and these animals feel guilty, and it's just swaying us the wrong way.
I think so too. And the other thing too, one of the reasons that I wanted to see it cut down, especially at 6 through 12, if they had to get through that many selections, there's not going to be any learning. It'll just be all teaching.
Right.
Here, do this, do this, do this. Let's see how fast we can get through it. We're just going to march through time.
That was an issue. I'll go into it a little bit. With the school district we were at before we went to Red Lake, was my daughter's in the 85th to 90th percentile in the STAR test, which is great. Well, then they had these other learning systems that are meant to boost people down to bring their STAR test up.
Mhm.
And I don't remember what that's called. Something, I don't know. If I said it, you probably know what I'm talking about, but I don't remember. Anyway, however, they would lose time or they would lose recess time if they didn't have all these done, but yet they didn't count for a grade in the school. Well, when you're taking somebody that's in the 90th percentile who doesn't have them done, but also really doesn't need them, but it's because you want to be fair and equal and everybody has to do. Well, are you trying to get from the 90th percentile to the 100th percentile? So it's kind of the same thing as
Yeah.
why are we doing this if it doesn't even, and we move school districts over that.
Yeah.
Just because, but it's this way on every single thing. All of a sudden, like, whoa, who are you helping? Who are you hurting?
Yeah. I know. And I hate to see things like that, but I think the reason that you see things like that is there's so much pressure on these school districts to perform well on the STAR test.
Right. And just teach. And that was my point is, hey, let's give a little time for a breath. Let's let these teachers at least began their career wanting to help, wanting to mold young minds, wanting to help make a better society and all the things. But you're just making them teach to this exact point.
Teach to that exact point, and they've got so much to teach, the kids aren't learning it.
Yeah.
One of my friends said, my grandson never learned how to count money or was never taught how to count money.
All right.
And I said, no, he was taught. Because I know it's in the text.
Yeah, it's definitely
He just didn't learn it.
Right.
And that's
Because they blow through that in 3
Right.
weeks and then go on.
and I just feel like, one of the things as I look at this is I want to see learning, because if we're doing all this teaching and we're not learning, it's a waste of time.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Well, continue. Then I've got some
Yeah.
thoughts. Okay.
And then since you brought up the taxpayer, let me tell you the taxpayer bill for Blue Bonnet Learning.
Okay.
And I think most people probably know that that also is a part of House Bill 1605, where the commissioner got approval to actually write an instructional program.
Okay.
And he called it a high quality instructional materials.
Right.
And the way it all came about he bought a company called or bought the rights to a program from Amplify.
Okay, I don't know if it is.
It's just a reading program and
Okay.
English language arts, and I think it may have had a math program. And he paid $50 million for that. And then he decided after he bought it that he wanted to make some changes to it, curriculum
Of
wise.
course, why spend $50 million on
Right.
something that needs change?
So then he contracted with another vendor to rewrite some of the lessons. And you may know that, what the criticism both for and against was the Bible
Mhm.
references that were in there. And he paid them to add it. That was $84 million. And then part of House Bill 1605 allowed for him to increase the staff of TEA up to by 53%.
Because what's a good government agency without more staff?
Right. So, and then he keeps saying, and then there was a bonus money wise if you adopted the Blue Bonnet learning.
To the district, right?
To the district, which is one of the reasons a lot of them wanted to go with it, whether it was
Pay
good
you
or
to
not.
do
Yeah, it
this.
was good or not.
Because now okay.
Okay. And then, but then he keeps talking about how it's free to the school districts. Well, it's not free to the taxpayer. And that's my concern.
That's exactly right. And then this is the unelected guy?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Just wanted to make sure I'm wrapping this all up for everybody. Yeah. It's free for you. No, it's not. If you're if you're paying property tax or whatever other taxes are going towards your school rate, that's not free. That's taking it from someone else.
Exactly.
And to the tune of $90 million over the Blue Bonnet has some, I think, is geared towards conservatives in general, but it has some questionable stuff in there
Oh,
as
it
well.
has some real questionable stuff in
I mean,
there.
I didn't know how far you wanted to go into this.
Well, I think we were able to get some of that out. But,
Yeah.
it did have some questionable stuff in it. And the other thing that folks need to know is this all came from this big bill, House Bill 1605.
Uh-huh.
It was a 51-page bill, and I feel sure that the commissioner wrote most of it because he's the one that was dictating what he wanted. And it had a $2.44 billion fiscal note with it.
Yeah.
So when
It's
you
just-
want to know where your tax dollars are going, that's where it goes.
Well, I don't know that this directly involves the State Board of Education because y'all just set the standards, but here in our area, we have two schools that are being taken over by Third Futures next year.
Is that a charter organization?
It is to bring them up to standard. So these schools also were low socioeconomic areas. So money's already being poured in there. And so, that didn't work. So what are we going to do? We're going to get a third party organization and we're going to dump even more money in there. And then it's like, okay, at some point, we just need to have good educational standards and then hold people accountable to it.
Right.
I could be, like I said, I'm not an educator. Maybe I don't understand, and I can admit if I don't. But
Yeah.
in my mind, that makes sense.
And then moving on with the Blue Bonnet, I'm sure everybody heard about all the eras that were in the Blue
I've heard there are some. I don't know if I've heard of all of them.
Well, TEA came to us in a meeting and asked us to approve these. They called them eras, corrections, and updates, and there were 4,200 of those.
Of course there were.
And my background was educational publishing, and I have never in my entire life seen a program that had that
With
many.
4,200 errors. in it.
Yeah. And to be fair, some of them weren't exactly errors. They were adding taking out a comma and putting in a colon kind of stuff.
Right.
But to me, that's sloppy publishing.
Well, I was going to say, that's the publisher's job, isn't it?
You're right. And I guess the thing that bothered me the most is of that 1,900 that were actual errors, 1,062 of them were licensing issues, which meant that TEA did not have permission to use that image.
Which
So-
then puts you at liability to lose more
Right.
money.
And then, I've already talked about how much Blue Bonnet has cost. It's going to take over $4 million to reprint all of these.
Well, of course. Well, it's just money. It's free. It doesn't cost anybody anything.
So that's the Blue Bonnet. And my biggest complaint about the Blue Bonnet, I didn't like the pedagogy of it.
What is that?
The way that it was presented.
Okay.
For me, it had too much academic content at the lower grade levels.
Okay.
Example, we were going to ask our kindergartners to sit for an hour lesson on King George V and how his death meant that there was going to be a succession to the English throne.
In kindergarten?
In
I
kindergarten.
don't know if I could sit through an hour of that today.
I know. And that's just one example.
Right.
And a big concern for a lot of people was there was a big, heavy unit on slavery at first grade.
Right. Yeah.
Which, so, and my concern was because we're forcing them to learn all this content. I mean, in kindergarten, there were 10 units, and in each unit, there were 10 or 11 lessons, just like the one I just described, an hour long. And to me, that takes away from their time to practice reading.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's how you learn to read, is
Yeah.
to practice. So,
That's exactly right. You know, my daughter was started kindergarten coming out of COVID. And so just watching even the way right in there where they were learning to read, even sometimes I'm like, no. Go back and sound that out.
yeah.
You know, we're not just doing sight words. We have to know how this is all put together.
Right.
And that's a big deal because if you
It is.
can't, you're just lost in the world.
Right. But instead of giving students more time to do that kind of thing,
Uh-huh.
we're going to teach them about King George V, Julius Caesar, some prince from Vietnam that nobody has ever heard of.
Yeah.
So,
John McCain.
yeah, well, so,
No, I'm
that's
sorry.
that's just, and that was my main reason that I didn't think it was a good program. Now, the commissioner obviously does, to the standpoint that, and the public may know that there are 20 educational service centers around the state
Oh, I didn't know that.
that they
What does
have.
that mean?
Well, they're like a staff, I guess. They help curriculum in small districts.
Is this like Region 8 in Pittsburgh?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. I know what that is.
Okay. But there's 20 of them.
Okay.
And-
Okay. I didn't realize that's
yeah.
what they were called. Yeah. One of my friends works at Region 8.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Now, what the commissioner has done, and the commissioner is the one, they're all under the commissioner, and he evaluates them,
Uh-huh.
Part of their evaluation process now, and I've seen the document, and I can even send it to you. It depends on the number of districts using Blue Bonnet, how big of a rating they get. The higher percentage.
Even though you don't have to.
Yeah, even though you don't have to. So what that means to me is he's got the regional service centers pushing this. And then I'm also picking up, I follow some teacher Facebook pages. I'm also picking up that the rumor is out there that next year, the STAR test or whatever it's going to be will be more aligned to Blue Bonnet.
I just have to ask the question, what's the tie to Blue Bonnet?
I don't know.
I mean, just from the outside looking in, that, I'm not making any accusations. I'm just saying it looks to be a tie in there somewhere.
It does. And my point is, if it was such a great program, why is he having to
Force people to do it?
Yeah. And also, if you use Blue Bonnet, you can get some kind of grant too.
Well, of course, it's just free money.
And also part of House Bill 1608 or 1605 was that every teacher had to be trained on high quality instructional materials. Well, guess what materials they use in the training?
No, not Blue Bonnet, I'm sure.
Yeah. So I just feel like there's a lot of behind the scenes.
I feel like somebody's getting paid on this to push
Well,
this Blue
I can't find it. It's not. I'm sure it's
I'm
not me.
Well, and I'm not saying it's the commissioner. I'm just saying
I don't
somebody.
know. I don't know. I don't know, but it is frustrating, and it's frustrating for the districts too. And
Right.
he kept calling it a high quality instructional material that's got over 1,900 errors and 2,300 other sloppy publishing things.
You can't even publish your own stuff.
I know.
That you could just call it learning materials. Just don't call it high quality learning materials.
Yeah. So that's sort of the Blue Bonnet.
Especially in today's world where if you're going to send out a work email or even a text, and I understand maybe this has come a long way in the little bit since then. You can put it through an AI program and catch all the grammatical errors pretty easily.
I know. I mean, somebody said, didn't they use spell check?
Right. I mean, It's not that hard to, we're not sitting there on a typewriter, pecking each one, and then, which those typists didn't peck anyway, but
Yeah.
you know the point.
Yeah,
We're not having to scratch it out and go red line and redo a page.
Oh, I know. So, that's sort of where we are with Blue Bonnet. And,
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
yeah, just to let the public know that that's where we
Well,
ended
we
up.
can be talking to our state representatives about this, and I think we should.
And you should talk to your state representatives about, the Blue Bonnet eras and the literary list that went from at least 1 to 23.
Yeah.
And then the framework of the social studies teaks, it seems a little off.
Yeah.
It's,
God. Well, and this is why people like me, I've been known to be called a little bit on one way or the other, but when I think that somebody's trying to sway my kid into belief, well, man, you want to take away Texas history, you want to teach them 0 to 500 Texas history, you want to take away all these other, and then, we're going to have this grammatically inaccurate material to teach from. Why would I not believe that I'm right in my assumption?
Yeah, exactly. And then let me talk a little bit about the STAR test since
Okay.
that just came out. One of the things I want folks to know is the STAR test is hard. It's
Right.
not an easy test. And in pulling some of the release tests, I'm concerned that we're not really testing the TEKS. As an example, a third grade math problem
Mm-hmm.
dealt with a 3-week period of number of pineapples versus customers. But the question really didn't have anything to do with math. It was more supply and demand.
Right.
Which week did they get more for their pineapples? And you really had to have an understanding of supply and demand.
It's interesting that you say that. Like I said, my daughter just finished 4th grade now. I just went over the scores with her and my baby mama earlier, and we were going through it, and one of them was personal financial decisions, and then I look. Now she got master's level on it, and so that that's just the way her brain works. But I said, she got 4 for 4 on that, and I said, hey, or actually her mom said, hey, you did that. She goes, oh yeah, I understand that, but it was like, what's this doing in the 4th grade? Because then you can open it up and see the question, and you're like,
Right.
man, that seems a little tough for a 4th grade question.
And I pulled a couple of the social studies questions.
Uh-huh.
And in that 8th grade, and I've got 2 degrees in history, and I'm not sure I could have answered them correctly. They're just the way they're worded, and they're really not testing the TEKS. And my concern about the math is, they should have been testing 2-step problems. Like if a
Yes.
teacher has 286 crayons, she throws away 75 and buys another 110. How many does she have?
That's right.
Well, that's not the kind of problems we're giving our kids to solve.
Let me ask you this while we're talking about the educational standards. A few years ago, probably my daughter was in 1st or 2nd grade. There were 5 ways to do math.
Mm-hmm.
And now knowing my child, and I know I'm good at math. I'm a math person. I can look at numbers. I can go in my head. If you ever need me to shine,
Okay.
that's where we are. But so is she, and that's the way our minds work. So I knew that what they call standard math algorithm, which is the way we all learned math, made sense in her mind because we can see it in our head, and all the numbers just move for us.
Right.
And so when she was having trouble in math, I said, no, you're just not. She goes, and the teacher at the time goes, well, we have to teach her all these. I said, no, that is not accurate. You have to be able to teach those if someone needs them, is the way I understand it.
That's a big problem we have with our math standards, and that's what we will be taking up next if we can ever get through social studies. That's next. But and it's called the process skills.
Uh-huh.
And part of the problem is the teacher, when we had all those process skills in there, because like you said, somebody needs it a different way.
Yeah.
The teacher mistakenly thought that she had to teach every problem all those different ways.
That's exactly what I said.
Right. So we are going to correct that. And then one of the process skills that I discovered that was missing from math is getting the right answer.
That's
When-
true.
We did not have that in our teaks to get the right answer. So I can assure you.
Ran into that doing homework. Because my daughter said, well, it doesn't matter if we get the right answer as long as the process is right. And I said, no, ma'am. Yeah. We will have the right answer when we're doing homework.
Right. No.
And she goes, no, we're supposed to know how to do it. I said, if you know how to do it, you'll get the right answer.
Yeah. 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 But that is a problem with math. And like I said, we will be taking that up next. And I have been a part of, for over a year now, of a math ad hoc committee looking at things. So I'm hoping that we can get our math back to where making it math.
Okay. Well, hey, I know you've got an appointment that you're
Yes,
here to
I do.
for. So, look, is there anything you want to leave us with? Any thoughts we need to be looking at coming forward?
Well, I would just like to assure everybody that, don't get in a panic on those social studies standards, though. Those are, I promise you, you'll be pleased with them. Unless you're like me and you don't like the framework. But what's in there are very good, strong, pro-American, pro-Texas social studies standards. And I feel confident that, that our students will, they're not going to be indoctrinated by anything else. Now, they may still have a little trouble identifying as a Texan, identifying as American, but they will get good, solid instruction.
Well, great. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service to our state. I appreciate that, and we'll let you get out of here.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Zach. I always enjoy visiting.
All right. Thank you. All right, everybody. I hope God blesses each and every one of you today.